All right. Okay, so we just have a couple or a variety of things to go through with you all this morning. Feel free to jump in if you have questions or anything else that I went through too quickly for you. Make sure to stop me or ask those questions. And Laura, make sure to interrupt me too if you have additional things to add on to what I have to say to you also this morning. So a few things first about the upcoming common assessments. Our window for this third 9 weeks common assessment is the 26th through March 1st. So that's basically next week. We are going to make that assessment available to you to take a look at to preview on Friday this week. Please make sure to take a look at it, make sure that it's available to you, to all of your teachers. If there's anything funny, if something's not available, if something's not working, please do shoot us an email. We had a couple of things come up last time, so it was really helpful for those of you that were on early and looking at that on Friday before. It was helpful for us to be able to catch those things ahead of time. But that testing window again is that next week before the intersession. Again, just like we told teachers last time, we really encourage you to try to get that RLA test done and out of the way first because of the scoring, the need for scoring time. So if your teachers can give that reading test first, we think that that's helpful for them to be able to get the scoring of that ECR done first. We know that things happen. We know that students are absent. We know that families decide to go on spring break early. All sorts of things occur, right? Or kids get sick, all sorts of things. So it's just really in everybody's best interest to try to get those exams done early. So please help your teachers understand that they're given a window in order to try to get those tests done. And we're really not going to be able to reopen the window for them to give tests after spring break. We realize that things happen. We realize that a kid got COVID and was out for the whole spring break or for the whole week of testing, or we realize that a teacher was on FMLA, or we realize that those types of kind of anomalies occur. But in general, we're really not going to be able to reopen that testing window. So please make sure that you help your teachers understand that it's not coming really from us, it's coming from above us. So it's not Laura and Laura trying to be mean to you or to your teachers, it's just something that's imposed on us from above. So please help them to make sure that those tests are given and that they're scored. A lot of things happened last time with the scoring, and I think we want to help you to understand that Laura and I do not have a teacher's view of the test. And so when CTCs come to us and say, 75% of my kids got zeros and I don't know why, can you help me understand? It's hard for us because we don't have the same view that a teacher does, and we don't even have the same view that a CTC does. And so when we go into Eduphoria and we take a look at it, it's hard for us to even understand what's going on there. And it's kind of hard for us to help you through it also. And so we can sort of take our best guess, but we don't always know what happened when a teacher went through and swears that they scored everybody's test and swears to you that they scored everybody's test, but we're not exactly sure what happened. And so if you could do us a favor and really help your teachers understand what it is to score those constructed responses, I think that will help everybody's kind of heartache on the back end. So that's kind of a precursor to helping make sure that those things don't happen. So we did have a lot of people come to us, 4 or 5 weeks after that second 9 weeks test and tell us, why do all of my kids look like they got zeros when I scored all these tests? It's kind of just being preventative from the back end. So, whether that's maybe during a PLC time, a grade level planning time, to just come together and score those constructive responses. And if you're present for that and making sure that whether it's hitting a submit button and making sure that happens, or just helping them make sure that they know what that looks like, that would be really helpful for everybody involved. I'm going to make this this PowerPoint available inside of the Schoology for you all for CTCs. And what you see down here is a link to a little help section inside of Eduphoria's website. It's a video and a PDF that helps teachers know how to score those if they've never done that before. And I think that would be helpful to have kind of that visual help. I've emailed that to some of you who have asked for it, but it is helpful to know how to score those responses. Again, when you email us and ask us for help, sometimes actually you are more helpful than we are with those scoring because we haven't actually seen it from the teacher's perspective. Okay. I have had some emails asking about a second grade test on Eduphoria. We're not doing that for the third 9 weeks. I have not heard word on the fourth 9 weeks. I know that that's happened in the past, but just keep your ears open and we'll let you know if that's going to happen for the fourth 9 weeks. Okay. All right. As far as the Amplify assessments, I know that you've heard this before, but we're receiving questions about them again. Just remember that we have made those available to you because they've come from TEA for us, but we don't have any control over them. We can't edit them. We can't do anything to them. We can't monitor them. We can't change them. And so if there's something wrong with them, because that's come up to us before, that some of them have been missing the reading passage or things like that, unfortunately, we don't have any control over them. So they kind of are what they are. And if there's something that needs to be done to them, maybe just keep a note of that for next year. But unfortunately, we don't have any kind of control over them. And so they're sort of based on campus decision, how you all are deciding to use those. Remember that there are some Amplify end of units that don't actually have what you would consider a test. So like an Eduphoria or an end of unit type of test. Instead of that, they have a written piece or a project. And so when we've gotten emails that say, why does Eduphoria not have an end of unit, end of unit 6 test or end of unit whatever test for this particular grade level? Typically, when we've gone into the teacher guide and looked for it, it's because it doesn't have a test at the end of that unit. It's a project or a written piece or something to that effect. And so just help teachers know that as they plan, if they go into their teacher guide and see that type of thing, that's why there's not going to be a test hanging in Eduphoria for that unit. So as they go in and kind of internalize those units, that's what they're going to see, is they're not going to see a test in Eduphoria for those instead of those projects in those particular units. Okay. Just some upcoming events. These are things that we announced at that last CTC meeting. These are dates for the next couple of CTC meetings. And then a couple of things for those Amplify on-campus PDs. So we've been sending out emails. Those of you who have already had us on your campuses, thank you for your hospitality. But as we come around to your campuses, a couple of things to know. Basically, the only thing that we are going to need from you, from your campus, is a room with some type of projection ability. So whether that's a projector or like a flat panel screen, something like that. And then just that room, a place for your teachers to be for that day for training, and nothing else as far as training materials. So that Amplify trainer will come with whatever he or she needs to do their training. So you won't need any really materials for your teachers. Your teachers will need to bring their laptops in order to be able to participate in the session, but everything else the trainer will have as far as what they need. If you have picked out the model lessons as your sessions, and I will be sending you an email to remind you of what you've picked out. If it's a K2 model lesson, the trainer is going to be modeling that lesson in a first grade classroom. And so you're going to want to pick out a teacher or a class that's kind of willing to lend their classroom for that model lesson to happen in. Basically what the trainer does is they do kind of like a preview of the lesson with the teachers first, to kind of like look at what the lesson is. And then they go into that first grade classroom and model a skills lesson for about 30 minutes. And then they come back and they kind of regroup and talk about how things went with the teachers, debrief with them. Then they go back into that first grade classroom and do about another 30 minutes of modeling of a knowledge lesson. And then they come back and kind of debrief again. So it's a nice kind of, it's not a whole 120-minute lesson, because they want to have some time for talking with the teachers and to give them a chance to sort of debrief and understand what was going on. And then if it's a 3rd through 5th grade model lesson, it's kind of the same type of cycle, but with a 4th grade classroom. So you'll want to pick out a 4th grade class that would be a good place to do a model lesson for the teachers.
Laura,
I've had some teachers.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is that the one you said it's doing a small group instruction you selected, or which?
This one's the model lesson. So some of the schools have chosen that model lesson and debrief. So the small group is all going to be in that training room that you, whether it's your PLC room or your library or wherever you've decided to have it.
So we won't need a classroom then for that?
No, no, great question. So the only ones that you'll need a classroom with children in it for is the model lessons. Yeah. And then, everything else will be happening in that training room. Yeah, another question?
Yes. Is this going to be a monolingual class or dual language, or does it matter?
Yeah, so it actually doesn't matter. It could be either monolingual or dual language. All of the trainers that they've been sending to us are bilingual trainers. However, they will be doing the lesson in English. And the reason for that is because we sort of gave them, we picked out a lesson that would be a good lesson for them to be able to do across the board at any campus that they were sent to, just because they're being sent to 48 different campuses all across the district. And so we had to pick something that would sort of work across the board. And so we said, you know what, go ahead and prepare the lesson in English. But if you were sent to a dual language classroom, if they are sent to a dual language classroom, they're prepared to use bridging strategies, be able to do some cross-linguistic connections. And so just know that they are prepared to work with dual language learners also. That's a great question. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Also just know that the lessons that they're working on are lessons that your students have already seen, and that's on purpose. We didn't want to pick something that number one, if it was a skills lesson that's still 3 weeks out, that would be really hard for your students because it's going to be just not doable for them yet. Also, if it was a knowledge lesson that they haven't seen yet, you know how Amplify works, that it builds upon itself knowledge-wise, and that would be really difficult for students. We also know that there's campuses that might be a little bit behind in the curriculum, or just, slight or on time or slightly ahead. And so because the trainers are working with campuses across the board, we thought it would be easier to pick something that was a little bit backwards in our as far as our pacing. And that way it would be easier for teachers to see a lesson that students are able to access kind of across the board. So what the trainers have done is they've gone in, they've talked with the kids and said, you know what, guys, this is something I know you've already done. It's going to be a review for you. What we're going to do, and they've done a really nice job of kind of previewing that with the students and helping them understand why. So just so you know, and don't think, why are we doing this backwards like this? It's just helpful for both the trainer and for us as teachers also. Okay. Yeah, Laura, did you have something to add? Okay. Any more questions about the Amplify PD sessions? Okay. And then curriculum conversations are coming up starting tomorrow. So hopefully you all have picked out teachers that are going to be sent to those. So we've got them going on all over different places in the district. So you guys have received information about that. So starting tomorrow and going through next week. Again, if you were able to send a teacher that didn't come last time, that's really helpful so that different teachers are able to sort of access that information and share it with their colleagues. And we're looking forward to hopefully seeing you all at some of those too. And if you have questions about those, you can send them on to us as well.
Laura, I apologize, but I never saw an email with the curriculum conversation schedule. Was that sent out to us?
I know principals received it. I know the principals received it in more than one setting. So hopefully they have chosen their people. Oh, I'm seeing several heads shaking. Let me check on that. I'm writing it down. Let me check on it and get back to you all, but I know that we were told that principals received it in a couple of different memos that they had. So hopefully they've picked out their teachers to attend. But let me check on it when we get off the call here, and then I'll let you all know.
Yes, please, because I know we have something we have here on campus, so I would have known if she was sending teachers. So I know we didn't send it out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys let me know. Let me find out and I'll let you know. Okay. All right. I think that might be my last. Oh, no, I have one more. Come on. It doesn't want to shift. It's too stressed out about curriculum conversation. Or it didn't save my last one. Let me stop sharing for a second so I can. Oh, the technology. All right. Okay, Canva, come on back. There we go. Okay. Can you see that? Okay. Did all of you attend the CTC meeting last week, or was anybody not there? Some of you were not there. Okay.
I wasn't.
Say it again.
I wasn't there.
Okay, so there were a couple of you that weren't there. So this is kind of a review for those of you who weren't there. I'm going to go through it sort of quickly so that if you were there, then it's not like extra information. Then we can ask questions. And then if you want to jump off the call, then those of you who want to stay on and kind of review this a little bit more, you can, okay? So basically what we talked about last week was we spent the first part of our time together doing a station rotation as if you were students doing like a review for STAR. We set it up as kind of a camp theme, and we did like a STAR camp, literacy camp theme. And we talked about how this might be set up for our students if we were to break up, let's say, like the whole 5th grade in our school to do rotations to review for STAR. We picked out different standards, and every single station was a different standard to review for the STAR test. We had some stations in Spanish and some in English, so we talked about how that might look if we were doing it at our campus also. And then we gave the second half of our time, or maybe a little bit less than half the time, for planning. So we had CTC sit at tables together and plan a little bit about what that might look like at our campus. So we talked about, at my campus, I have these standards that I know have consistently been low this year or across the years, and I want to make sure to target those for STAR review. I know that it works well. It's worked well in previous years, or I really want to give it a try this year to try to group our students across a whole grade level and do some rotations. Or I know that teachers have been resistant to that in the past, and so I want to try to encourage them to work together as a grade level to do rotations. I had a couple CTCs say it's really hard for us to do a whole grade level, and we're going to try to encourage our teachers to do it within their classroom, different types of setups like that. And we gave them some time to plan out activities that they could do for review for STAR rotations. We talked about what a schedule might look like, as far as some campuses have started even now to do these types of review stations on like Fridays. Some of them just wait until the last 2 weeks before the test in order to start doing that kind of a review type rotation. And then we even talked about different things like, you've got to think about what kind of location these kind of rotations can happen in. Do I want to use like all of the 4th grade teachers' classrooms? Can I also make use of the library? Are there any extra classrooms to use? Like, do I have a fine arts type classroom we can use? Do the teachers come along with those classrooms? Like, do I have a fine arts teacher who's willing to also help out? Is the interventionist willing to help out? Is the librarian willing to help out? All of those types of things kind of come into play when we start to make our plan. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a second. I'm telling you, I'm like not used to my sharing looks different than it used to look. Come on, Canva. There we go. So when we came away from that, I shut my whole Google Chrome now. I guess I haven't been an ITS for long enough anymore. I'd come away from my technology. So I'm going to take you into the CTC group so that you can see the documents that we worked on. So inside of our meetings and general information here, I'm going into the February meeting. And so inside of this debrief and plan folder, there's a few different documents that will be useful to you. One of which is this STAR station rotation or schedule and activities. And so this is you guys who got that email from me last week. This is the document that we're asking you to upload in that artifact folder. And so it's kind of like a rough draft planning document. So thinking about what different stations you might be running, who as a teacher and in what room they might be running that station, what activity they might be running, the standards they're looking at, the materials they'll need, and how you're going to group your students. So do I have students am I going to group my students kind of by their levels? Would I need to pull out some students who are going to be testing in Spanish? All of those types of criteria that you might think about for grouping your students. The reason why we came back and sent you another email a couple of days later is because we found out that your principals are going to be looking at this information during their principal PLC on February 27th. And they're going to be kind of extending this plan for your campus. So you want to make sure that you have a conversation with your principal about this plan so that when they come to their executive principal, they have something to share that they've talked about with you. So if you go back into, go ahead.
Sorry, is this needed for each grade level?
Don't worry about turning one into us for each grade level, but you want to go ahead and talk to your principal about each grade level because you are going to be making sure that each grade level is reviewing for their own purposes, if that makes sense. So don't think about us so much as like we're looking over your shoulder to review it, but your principal is going to need to have a plan for each grade level when they come to that principal PLC.
So when we upload, what exactly is it that you're wanting us to upload? Just one of them from a grade level, or?
Yeah, go ahead and upload one so that you make sure you have something in there. But I will tell you that when your principal comes back to that PLC, they're going to want to make sure that they have 3 of them along with them. So
Okay.
make sure that you've talked to them about all 3 of them, because that's going to be important for them. Mhm.
Miss
Yeah. So
Laura,
yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Right now we have an interim on our campus, and I
Mhm.
kind of briefly went over it with her. What's concerning me is I haven't had time to meet with my teachers with all of this pass testing and the
Mhm.
way that our PLCs are set up around here. And I really want their input, and I really want them looking at their TEKs. So
Yep.
I guess, I mean, this is probably going to be a terrible word to say. If I set it up, it's just me looking at this document. I haven't even had time to explain
Yeah.
any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your I mean, I will set it up, but it's
Mhm.
going to be very generic, I
Mhm.
guess is the word.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would tell you, and I'm gonna put myself I'm gonna stop sharing so I can look at all of you. Putting myself in a teacher's shoes in that situation, because I would definitely want input as a teacher, right? I think what I would do is I would craft a really well-written email to my teachers if you haven't, or I would try to go to them door to door, I guess. How many teachers do you have at a grade level?
We have 3 in 3rd, 5 in 4th, and 3 in 5th.
Okay, so it's not too many at a grade level. I think instead of maybe an email, or instead of even trying to get a meeting, I think I might try the door to door approach, because you're going to have a better chance at a conversation than trying to make yourself understood via email. And maybe go try to have a conversation with each one and say, look, this is something that we're trying to get together, but I would really like your input. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do some type of, activities or rotation type of thing with our students, but I want to make sure that I have your input as far as what your students need. I know that we're going to have campuses that it's going to be a lot to try to figure out how to organize a whole grade level rotation. But at the same time, it's less work for teachers if they don't have to plan everything. If I have one teacher who knows, you know what, my strength is the response writing. I'm really good at teaching students to do the ECR and the SCR, but my colleagues might not be so strong at that. And so if I have a teacher that's willing to take that on as their strength, and my colleagues can rely on me for that, then it's really to everybody's benefit to work in a team in that way. And so don't think of it so much as, oh man, we have to put on a whole camp themed thing, but more as, how can my 3rd grade team of 3 rely on each other to really, make a great review for our students, so that it's not going to be so much work for everybody, if that makes sense. So if you
Right,
can
it
kind
does.
of pitch it to them in that way, I think they might be willing to work together. You know what I'm saying?
And they are willing. It's just that,
Mhm.
I would like to even show them the stuff that you guys showed us so that they
Yeah.
can pick what they want. But
Mhm.
I think what I'm going to start with is, give me your TEKs. Let's start with that. And then
Mhm.
we'll roll it out because I don't know if they want to work collaborative. I'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
how they
I'm
want to
just
do it.
letting you know that right now, between 2 APs going back and forth, and interim, it's been a little sticky around here. So
Yeah.
we will just do what we do. Thank you.
Yeah, I can understand. And I think, from our perspective, it's not so much that we need it from you, it's that we were told your executive principals are going to ask for it from your principals. So just make sure that they have something to
At
talk
least
over
one
with them
good
on that
solid
tone.
one. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
One other
Mhm.
question, Laura. So this is for literacy. Is there one of a star station that math is doing?
So they're going to, and that's what the CTC meeting on the 18th for math CTCs is going to do the same kind of thing, but their STAR test is a little bit later than ours, and that's why we were in a rush to get going, because our test is it's the 9th, 10th, and 11th of April. Sorry, I have my calendar hanging right there. So because it's like, if we come back from spring break like March 18th, that doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to review. You know what I'm saying? So your review kind of has to start not too long after spring break. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that this CTC meeting got you guys going on thinking about that, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
because my
So math has a little bit longer.
okay, so therefore I can let her know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions about that? What your principals are going to be asked to do? So you do not need to attend that February 27th meeting with them. You just need to make sure that you've had a conversation with them before they go, so they're not kind of blindsided by oh, my CTC went to this meeting and didn't tell me what we were. Does that make sense?
So Laura, we basically just fill one out and upload it. Like however we best see that we're gonna do, however
Yeah,
the
so
teachers start spiraling the TEKS and all that, right? With just what resource they're using and why that's standard, right?
yeah, so fill it out and upload it, but make sure that you've had a conversation with your principal about how this is going to look at your campus, because you could fill out and upload anything, but if there's not like a plan attached to it for your campus, then it's not going to be actionable. If that makes sense. So make sure that there's a plan in place for what that's going to look like at your school. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not so much about a piece of paper that you're able to upload to Schoology. It's about what it's going to look like in practice, right?
So quick
and
question.
again, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. So
No.
it can be like we can upload something, but then it could change.
Oh, absolutely. And it probably will change because your principal is going to come back to talk to their executive principal about, this is a rough draft, but make sure that it's something that your principal understands that you've talked to them about it, that your principal understands how it works, and that when they come to talk to their executive principal, it's something that they can then work on and say, you know what, this part of it looks like it's going to work. It's going to be good, but I think maybe this part we might need to adjust because of this, and this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not so much about like, oh, we uploaded it and that's it. It's about how is this going to be effective on our campus, right? So again, like, we'd like to do a camp theme and make it fun, but if that doesn't work for you, that's okay. The goal is these are the standards that we are trying to, to go after on our campus. This is what we're trying to accomplish. They're not going to be the same at every grade level. You have different amounts of teachers. You have different amounts of students testing different languages. You have different amounts of students on an IEP. You have all sorts of different things going on. And so think about how that's going to look at your school, right, with your teachers. Okay. Other questions? All right. Well, if you have anything else, feel free to email us. That's what we're here for.
And Laura, you said you send us or email us the curriculum conversation schedule.
I will do that, and I'll also find out. I'll find out who knows what, and I'll let you guys know that too. But I'll email you the schedule too.
Okay, thank you.
I forwarded you the email as well. Just now.
The one that you got that your principals received, or
yes, they got it from Gabby Rosales on February 2nd.
Oh, okay.
And then I forwarded to, I don't know your name, but I just forwarded it.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Emma.
I have a quick question that has nothing to do with this. So yesterday you emailed for the teachers I have that are doing the intercession that they have a meeting today. But Summit has a meeting with them today. So
yes. Yeah, so I found out yesterday late in the afternoon. I was gonna email it out this morning. I thought I'll just tell them in this meeting. We're gonna have that meeting together. So the links, I'm not sure how they're organizing it, but somehow whoever joins both of those meetings is gonna be together, and all of the information will be shared together. Yeah, so don't worry about it. Yep. Yeah, and for any of your teachers that are not able to join either of those two meetings, we'll make sure to record that and put that information up somewhere accessible for them. So don't be too worried about it. If they've taught intercession before, they'll be okay. It's generally the same information. So. All right. Any other questions? Things that we need to
I have
cover?
a quick question. The third 9 weeks, by what day do they need to score?
So the window is up until that, I'm looking at the calendar here, till that Friday the 1st. We'll leave it open for scoring through the following week. But just make sure that it's done. So if your teachers can have it scored by the end of that week before spring break, that would be ideal. That's the,
Okay.
mhm.
But
Thank
you're
you.
saying they can score up until that first week of intercession?
I need to check on that to make sure with those above me, but I don't have it open yet. The testing window open yet. So right now, my understanding is that the testing window is the 26th of February through March 1st. That's what's on the official calendar hanging behind me here. So I would tell you to make sure that your teachers have it
By March
scored before because we had some problems this last time with having teachers needed to be reopened for this and for that and for the other. So if you jumped on when I was already presenting here, we do really want to encourage you to kind of guide teachers over their shoulder as much as possible with that scoring, because I think a lot of the problem last time happened with teachers who they went through and scored all of their ECRs, but either they didn't hit a submit button or the scores weren't saved or something. And so just really, and I'm going to tell you right now, I went through and I was fixing a couple of things in Eduphoria that I had already done on the test and they didn't get saved. So you want to make sure like that little like ribbon at the top, it finishes saying saved. Like give Eduphoria its time. It's a little bit it's a little special sometimes. Just give it its time to save everything, to submit everything. And I think, if your teachers can get together in a group and do it during their planning time or something, just so that you can make sure that everything is saved and submitted, it will save everybody a little bit of heartache on the back end. I think that would be helpful for all, because I did have campuses that, like an entire grade level didn't have any scores. And when that comes back to kind of the leaders that are several levels above us, then, it's a question of why are there zeros for an entire school for a whole grade level? So I think,
And Laura, are there
Mhm.
directions on how to score for teachers? I have 2 brand new teachers. So is there something that we can send them or they can go to show step by step on where to score at?
Yeah,
how to go-
I have a link for that in Eduphoria in that presentation I just showed you, but I'll go ahead and email you guys that link too. It's directly from Eduphoria. And again, like I said at the beginning, unfortunately, Laura and I don't have a teacher's view in Eduphoria. So we don't if I did, I would make my own instructional videos about how to do it. But I don't have that view. So I can't see it and tell you and show you how to do it. But I'll send you guys that link from Eduphoria itself. It's like a how to enter scores. And hopefully that will be helpful for teachers also. It just comes straight from Eduphoria themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, just encourage your teachers. Like we said last time, if they can give the reading test first, if they can give it that first day of the week, that gives them the whole week to enter their scores. I think that's helpful, because like math doesn't have any constructed responses, so it's just going to be self-scoring. I don't know if science or social studies has any constructive responses. They're not sitting next to me right now, so I can't ask them, but
I think
that would be
science from
helpful.
last time, what I heard from teachers, it did have 1.
Okay. But yeah, just good planning helps us all get everything finished on time. So. All right, any other questions from anybody? Comments? Things to share? All right, we appreciate you. I will stick this recording in the Schoology group as soon as it's done processing, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Laura, I have